After my Bangladesh trip, I was asked to go to headquarters in Seattle to share a story and our trip there. And I did. And afterward, one of the World Vision workers came to me during lunch and he said, "You have a real story to share and you should do it." And he said, "It's just so compelling and you're such a good storyteller." I'm like, "But it's just my story. I don't have anything special to give." And he said, "That's what you have to give is your stories." Prayed about it all the way home on the flight, and it's a pretty decent flight from Seattle, so I had a lot of time to pray. And in my mind came up the ministry called Serving Through the Storm. Mm-hmm. And at that time, the reason that was it, because the president of World Vision, the then president, Richard Stearns, came to me afterward, and he said, "What a compelling story you have." And he said, "How amazing is it that you continue to serve the Lord even through your cancer and your husband's journey?" And I said, "You know what? It's really the other way around. The thing that kept us going was the fact that we were serving. And so it's not that we did it. That's what got us through. It gave us a purpose through that." And I really believe that now our purpose is sharing our story and helping people getting through the most difficult time when you've been sucker punched and get a diagnosis like that. It's mind-blowing to me. Oh, and then a funny thing happened to me 4 years later. My cancer came back, something that wasn't supposed to happen. And I'll tell you how angry I was about it for a few days. It was the worst Mother's Day I ever had. Cried all the way through. And long story short, 2 days later, I went to CrossFit and I was able to successfully do an overhead squat, which I couldn't do up until that time.
Which is hard in itself.
If I could do that, I could conquer this. And it turned out that I had a stem cell transplant. I had to go to New York, was there for 3 full weeks in quarantine. I was wearing a mask before it was fashionable, and, with COVID. And the Lord brought me through that. It's been 4 years, it will be 5 years in September, and I've been cancer free. And that's a one and done. I believe that this is it. I'm no more cancer. So where were we then? So funny thing how the Lord had given us years ago. We had no idea, but we had bought a piece of property in Rhode Island, a quarter mile from the beach that I would go to. And this is when we were first married, so we've been sitting on this for 40 years. We wanted to move there. We wanted to raise the kids there. We wanted to build. We wanted to do all that. It didn't happen. And so we were almost going to sell the land when Stu was diagnosed, because we said, that's a dream that's just not going to happen. And here we are, almost 11 years later from his diagnosis, and he's still hand cycling and doing marathons. And what do we do with this land? So 3 years ago, we stood over the land, we put our hands out, and we just prayed and dedicated it to the Lord. And he put this vision in our hearts that this is our El Bethel. This is the place where people are going to come. We even have upper rooms in our house. We have two upper rooms. We met with the builder today. I'm so excited about it because we found a perfect builder who understands the ministry that we want and how we want to host people there so they have a place to go. They don't have to drive back and forth like I did, because a quarter mile from the beach is the most handicapped accessible beach in New England. How is that even possible? It's just so crazy how the Lord put all those pieces together. And what didn't make sense 11 years ago when he was diagnosed now makes sense. And I really believe that Stu is healed. My husband, by the way, his name is Stu. He was healed from his ALS diagnosis, because that was a real diagnosis. We saw the test. We saw everything that led the neurologist at Mass General, who's the head of neurology, say it's ALS. 11 years later, 7 years later, actually, because it hadn't progressed the way ALS would, they call it now PLS, which is primary lateral sclerosis. Well, so he's still using a walker. He has a service dog. He goes to work every day. He hand cycles. He does all of that. Is it a struggle? %. Do we understand what people go through still? Are we blessed because God has this difficulty, this challenge that we understand, that we can relate, I love in The Chosen, I'm just going to throw this out here. I know I'm talking a lot, just gab.
No, you're good, you're good.
There's a place where little James comes to Jesus and asks, why am I not healed? I love Jesus' answer, because he says, it's because I trust you with suffering. And when I think about how God has trusted us with suffering, how our testimony can ring through in the suffering. So yes, we can relate to people who, in the middle of the night, I hear a bump in the bathroom and oh my gosh, he fell. And Swanson and I are running there to pick him up. I know what that's like. And I know the uncertainty of him. He's still driving, by the way, but he's okay driving. We just went to Boston last week, and he drove because it's better him in the city than me. Trust me. Anyway, but the fact that God has trusted us with us, and not only trusted us with this suffering, but He also gave us a purpose. And the purpose we now have is to serve others because we've been and are still going through the storm. We know what it's like. We understand what people go through. We get the suffering. We get that sucker punch feeling for those new diagnosed people. And it's like your life is over. And so that's when we met, Drew, talking about like how we going to, get this out there. And one of the things that you had challenged when I did a boot camp class was do a live video. And I'm like, no, my daughter had been doing them. She's the expert. And I would watch her, like, I can't do that. I just get tongue-tied. I don't know. I have to look perfect. I don't know what. And you made us do it. It was a challenge. And when somebody gives me a challenge to do something, I have to do it. I have to check off the assignments every time. I'm the good student. And you know what? It wasn't terrible. I was using filters because I said, well, I have so many wrinkles and I don't like and all of that. And my hair had to be perfect. And then I realized nobody cared about that because you had made one point to me. If you're giving someone an answer, a solution to their problem, they don't care what you look like. Someone on the side of the road who's been injured, they don't care what you look like. They're not
at all.
I want her to help me because her hair's not fixed up. So, when that kind of hit me and related, and also just speaking to your person, your niche, who is that person you're reaching? And when I started to do that, I'm not speaking to the masses or hundreds of people who, aren't going to watch anyway. We think when we put something on social media, everyone in the world is going to see it. But only speaking to that person, that spouse who can relate and be a caregiver, who now all of a sudden you're in a completely different role. So we met there. And one of the things I was struggling with is, how do I monetize this? Because how can I help people? And I had this in my gut, like, how can I help people and charge them for it? I didn't want that. I wanted people to come and stay with us and have a place of refuge, or for us to meet in video with them where we wouldn't have to charge them. I want this to be for them, to be free, to be a ministry. We could have gone by way of donations, but then all of a sudden the Lord dropped like this in my lap, and it was an opportunity to be a brand affiliate with the company New Skin. It was through a friend of mine who said, hey, would you put up a referral post for me? I hadn't even used the products. And I said, well, just tell me what to say. And that's another thing. That's how we spread, right? Putting up a little post about a product. Yeah. And I said, I wanted to try it. I was honest. I didn't say I used it. I just said I wanted to try it. And after doing that a couple of times, she says, it's that easy to do this. And you can also make money doing this. And I'm like, well, let me think about it. Let me pray about it. I found out that it was free to sign up. You never had to put any money out. You didn't have to buy a kit or anything like that. There was no monthly quota. I said, well, this is kind of a no-brainer. And even when I told my daughter, she's like, I don't know, it sounds too good to be true. And I'm like, but I don't know. I kind of trust this person. I don't think she would, make something up. What would it gain her? So sure enough, I did. And I realized, well, then I started my company. Look at me, a little company owner here. Celestial Glow. Celestial Glow is my company. I told my husband, I said, this is going to help pay for what we want to do to help others. And his first response was, I don't want it to take away from our ministry. And I said, well, I'm just going to pray that it doesn't. Here's what I found, Drew. This is so amazing, is that the more that I was on social media, Okay, and this has been over the course of a little over a year now because I was transitioning. I was working, it was like my part-time, and now it's my full-time. But the more that I was on social media, the more connected I was to people. The more I was seeing what they were going through, the more people were seeing. I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, I saw your profile. You're a cancer survivor. I'm like, yeah, I sure am. And like, well, I'm going through that. Or, well, let's talk. And through Messenger, we're having these deep conversations and encouragements. I found out that someone has ALS through that. I was able to reach out to them and say, hey, I want you to know, I know what you're going through and all of that. The connection of the two as a ministry is just mind-blowing to me. And the products have been like very much life-changing to me. I mean, they're not just, Nu Skin has such a wide variety of products, from whitening toothpaste to all sorts of wellness and supplement products that have really changed my life. Anti-aging things, all of those. So I stopped using filters on my videos because I didn't need to anymore. So various things like that just, I mean, when I say that, everybody talks about, when I share the business with somebody, like, it's such a great opportunity for you. Well, I'm not good at selling. Well, I'm not either. I'm just sharing what I love and what works for me. That's all I'm doing. And I'm passionate about it because it really does work. My whole family uses these products. If you come to my house, that's all you see. I mean, it took a while to convince my husband. I said, hon, you should really try this whitening toothpaste that I'm using. Oh, I don't know. I don't think I'm not interested. But finally, he tried it. And after a week, his teeth were whiter. I said, you've been using brand X toothpaste all this time. And it was a whitening toothpaste, and it did nothing for you. So that's a waste of money because this is working. So really it is, Anyway, so now he's all like in. He's actually become now, he was my CFO because I'm terrible at money and math. So now he's like posting, regularly for me. This is
nice.
Which is great. And he's coming, hey, I have an idea for a post. He just emailed me today. Right. So it's definitely a family affair because this is going to help fund our ministry. I know that that's going to happen, and it's something that we can do. So Bethel, the project is coming along beautifully. We had a this morning, and I'm just so excited. He's talking about a foundation in end of May and framing in June. I'm like, this is happening. When this dream that God put in your heart, like 2 or 3 years ago, and you're planning, and I feel like Nicodemus. I'm not Nicodemus.
Noah?
Nope. Keep coming. The building of the wall. Nehemiah, thank you. My friend used to say the shortest man in the Bible, Nehemiah. Nehemiah, bad joke. His, the praying and the all of that. That's what we used, really. That the step by step what he did, and we just laid it out each step until the Lord, like, this dream just blossomed. And now to see it coming, I feel like the wall is getting built, and it's just so exciting. It's just so.
How did you, this is something I think that helps the people and could help some of the segue that I can give you to do things additionally or not. How did you get past the place of, like you said, I felt like I was drowning when all of these things kept happening back to back? How did you get past that?
Wow, that's a really good question. Boy, I would say this was a weekly journey. Every week I would go. And by the time I'd have to go back the following week, I was back in the same place again. And it's a 2-hour trip from our place to the beach, from where we live now. So worship music was one. That was like a big thing for me. And just seeing little glimpses of God, little assurances. And then we took on, so we had to turn things around because my husband had this death mentality. And this is what he would do. This is the kind of guy he is. He'd go online and he'd be searching all about when he's not here. And I kept telling him, you have to stop that but he says, but I'm fighting. I said, no, you're not. You're not fighting for life. You're fighting for death. Stop searching online about what you need to do and let's start fighting for life. So the girls and I took on the Armor of God prayer every day. We all knew that we were doing this because we saw it as a real spiritual warfare thing. We also came up with a motto, no limits was our team motto. Team Sherman was what united us, no limits. We kind of made these, we were surrounded by Team Sherman. It was amazing how our friends and family just came around us, and they became Team Sherman. We signed up for the ALS walk the first year. We were the top fundraisers in New Britain. Everybody was there. It was like, I mean, everybody had on our shirts. They were navy blue. It was like a sea of blue. We were the biggest team. But knowing that everybody was there and surrounding us and having all that support and having that no limits. I mean, that was just, and that was from, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's where that came from. It's not that we're so invincible. It's that because of God, we know no limits. So that was our motto. And I mean, I'll fast forward to me. My motto was fight for it. When I went through the cancer, we have bracelets of both, know no limits and fight for it. But that was huge for us, just coming together, having Stu try to get away from that death mentality. And the one thing that did it for him, and you might laugh at this, but getting a service dog. And our service dog, Swanson, I mean, she's an 11 and a half now. We got her 10 years ago. Lord, give her life like forever, because she literally turned his life around. The day we came home with her in the back of the car, and he said, I'm going to live because she needs me and I need her. And of course, I'm thinking, what about me all this time? But that's okay. I always say, my husband's in love with another woman, and it's okay with me. It's totally. And she is, I mean, she's the sweetest. Their bond is so tight that they told us when we left the program after his training with her, is like, make sure you become familiar with her and don't step back, because their bond is so tight that she needs to know she's good with all of you guys. And then when I was diagnosed with cancer, she flipped out, because she's like, I didn't sign up for two of you. I mean, she knew something was wrong. And then we became just as bonded. She's like, she was by my side all the time. She's through my chemo infusions. I'd be there for 4 or 5 hours. She sat on my lap the whole time. And any nurse that came over, she would side-eye them and make sure they were treating me well. But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's just an angel.
There's so much ways you can go with this. I'll give my suggestion. So this episode is, of course, I want you guys to hear Celeste and her story and the things that she does, and we're giving her some advice on how she could market it, how she can sell the things that she wants to sell, and we'll see where that goes. So the first thing is, I think when we think ministry, we think all ministry has to be free, or if it's paid for, it's going to mess things up. I think the way you can do that is it can be like a 3-level tier program, and the first tier could be free. This is where, if you had a Facebook group or a Discord group, wherever you wanted to hold the group at, and they get free motivation, maybe free newsletters, that group gets everything for free. And then maybe somebody who wanted to have a more intimate time with you, because it is your time, a more intimate time with you, and someone who wanted to have like maybe one-on-ones once a week or something like that, I believe you could charge whatever you want to for that. And the reason why I say that is because usually when things become free, people don't show up, or they brush it off as if it's not important. But if the first tier is free, no one can say they're not getting help. No one can say they're not getting help. It's kind of like the model of Jesus. Like, he had all those disciples, and then he had his main 3. He poured into way more responsibility, things like that. So you can have the tier model where first level is free for everybody. Second level can be, it includes 2 one-on-ones, or however you want to do that per month. And then your third tier could be the one where it's a monthly payment, and they get access once a year, twice a year, whatever, to go to the retreat center, which is Bethel. And the cool thing with that is that when ministry costs something, so let's be honest with that. It either costs us money physically, or it costs us a sacrifice, time away from family, all that stuff. So I always say, if you can do a model like that, that can work.
Okay, that's good.
The cool thing with that is nobody can say, oh, they're just doing it for money. No, I'm doing it so that El Bethel can keep running, so that me and Stu keep living, even with the Celeste Glow that you do. So that's a way to do it. Another way to do it is you can set up, and it's pretty straightforward. You can set up the no limits type of shirts on a site where you don't pay for the shirts. People can order it and then they can donate, or you get a percentage from it. But this way you don't have any inventory, you don't have any overhead, and people can still support in that way who hasn't had any of those diagnoses that you guys have had. So this is a way of getting support just because we want to support Celeste. We have no idea what the diagnosis, we have no idea what those feel like, but we just want to support. And that's another way right there. And then of course, though, I don't know if you know, my tagline is I help coaches and leaders use their unfair advantage, which is their story. Like, your story is your unfair advantage because nobody can duplicate that and nobody can tell it like you can. So that's a good thing of using your story. But with the Celeste Club, the cool thing with that is if there's no fight to pay a monthly subscription, you don't have to pay anything up front, you just sell as you go or as you may. The cool thing with that is you can always do group online parties. What do I mean by that? Instead of doing a lot of one-on-one calls and stuff like that, do like group challenges. And the cool thing with that, they can be 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, and they could be in a Facebook group or however you want to do that. But the thing with selling, people think selling is bad. It's bad when you're trying to give somebody something they don't want.
Right.
So if you were selling me high heels, I wouldn't care about them. If you were selling me a beard, I might buy. But the cool thing with that is within the challenge, you ask what you're really good at. You ask a lot of questions, and you just ask questions around the product so much that you start to see what are people actually saying about what they want versus I think you should have clear skin because you should. People may not have that jargon or they may not have that verbiage, but if someone was saying, hey, I'm starting to do a lot of videos and I want to show up looking better, you use that same language when you talk to them. Hey, most people who use this product are doing videos and they're showing up better. And then all of a sudden they want it. So I think it's just how you word, how you talk about it. And I would just always say when you want to share a solution with people, show yourself using it. Show somebody else doing it, talk about how they had success with it. And that's really it with that part. But definitely the serving through the storm. That's one that I see so many avenues with that. I see you being able to take people through 4-week, 8-week programs of how do we get past the anxiety part of this? How do we get past the hopelessness part of this? How do we get past being angry at God? And the cool thing with that, if you do it in a group, kind of like how the boot camp you was in, if you do it in a group, those people will learn to trust God more. They'll have a community, and almost any just by the law of reciprocity, anything you would want to sell, they would buy because they're gonna remember like she poured out her heart in those sessions. She supported us, gave us real things to do. Like one of my things I do is when someone's like, hey, what do I do to get past the fear of doing videos? I could just say, just do it. Yes, that is the answer. But if we uncover why you're scared, you're going to become a Celeste, where Celeste is doing lives all the time and things like that. So there's so many ways you can do that. But I would encourage you to really think about that type of support group, because even if it's once every 2 weeks for an hour, it's giving you a chance to see what is it that people actually want from you, because you may think they're coming to you for that group to learn about how to get past when they've been diagnosed and things like that. And they might be coming to you to actually learn about Christ.
Yeah. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
That's the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal. So we never know.
We can say, you have hope in this. And let's face it, our story isn't everybody's story. And my husband and I always reminds me of that. Like when we share a story, that's not going to be everybody's story. If you're diagnosed with ALS, you might not live 11 years or more like my husband. But the idea is you have to have hope in where you're at, because you don't know. I mean, he could have given up 11 years ago. and just said, I'm going in a wheelchair. That's it. I think I might have done that. To be honest, I might have been like, whatever, that's it. And I've seen this on Facebook where people have had a difficult diagnosis and they're like, I'm done. It's over. And you just don't know. And our other motto that I use is don't let a diagnosis define you, because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You don't.
That should be everywhere.
Exactly. If you don't fight for it, how do you know? So if I fully convinced that all those electric wheelchairs that he was like, searching for 11 years ago, if he gave in and got one of those and he says this too, the day I sit in a wheelchair is the day that I don't get up from one. And so he uses that walker and struggles through every single day, puts it in the car by himself. Swanson jumps in the back and they're off on the road. And that's it. You don't give up. You don't give in.
And that's the thing. It's really, I think God, like you said, God trusts us with suffering. Mm-hmm. I think leaders like yourself are not allowed to give in, because you are going to lead people and you have been leading people. The flip side of that is other people need the leader to show up so that someone can keep leading them. So that's really the main gist of why I was always on Celeste, do videos, Celeste, put yourself out there. And it wasn't because of just to see if you can do videos. It's more so people needed to see the star. People needed to see like who God had put to help lead them. It's like the scripture says, like, you don't light a lamp and then hide it. Like you put it out so that it can be shown. So that was why we were pushing you so hard with that. But Celeste, you have an amazing story, and it has so much ways that it could go for lessons, ebooks, courses, retreats. It's so many. So I just want to encourage you that like all the trial and pain, it wasn't for naught.
Never, right? And you really got the wheels turning in my head right now, because, my husband keeps saying we should go out to churches and we should speak and we should do this, I'm thinking the more intimate approach. I love what you're saying. And we had done some, like we had life groups through the Life Church online. But I think you're absolutely right as far as putting out our ministry on video, or on like a Zoom type meet. And you're very right, because I did a Pain to Purpose group, and it just kind of dwindled off to a few who were really into it, and we really had some significant things. But again, it was free, and I think people do show up if they put a little money to it. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but just to let them know this is you devalue if you give everything away. I think that's really.
And people start thinking that, like, I don't have to show up because it was free anyway. It's like, no, that's what the Facebook group is for.
Right, exactly.
But
and that might be just a great way for us to start now, because we are at the place, not only is our foundation getting laid in Rhode Island, but we need to get this foundation going for the group of people that are going to be able to be part of that and benefit from something like that. Yeah, that's exciting. Boy, you just put a little fire right there. I'm ready to roll with that one. And look at me, the video expert. As one of my friends said, you're all over Facebook. I'm like,
I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
I guess at least I'm being seen. But yeah, I mean, and I've been, we talk about what's our brand, and part of my brand is suffering. I mean, it sounds terrible, but, dealing with suffering. But, and not just doing videos on products, because it's who we are that we share. I'm not sharing a product, I'm sharing myself. But I've been struggling with, how am I going to do a video on, and what do I say regarding, and really it's, again, sharing the story and, putting that out there and creating some kind of a community where we can have caregivers or, whatever that looks like.
I think you have the brand in your head and you don't know it, because the brand is two things that you do. You put it out there by asking questions. Yeah. So you ask questions specific to what you guys do. So that's a way you can do it. And I think, honestly, the tagline could be, you just said it, don't let the disease defeat you.
Don't let any diagnosis define you.
That's it right there. Because then now it opens up for, so then we should fight back versus let's just crumble and give up. So I think if you start asking questions, I think if you form the Facebook group, and offline, you can hit me up. I can give you a Facebook group things you can do where you're not stressing out about any of that, because we're gonna be building Bethel, so we don't need extra stress. There's ways you could do it, but
it's like such a tapestry that God brought everything together. It's how Celestial Glow fits with Serving Through the Storm, about how our El Bethel, everything is just so intertwined. And in my product group, which is Celestial Glow Elite, because I did learn to have a special group to have, little special things for them. But in that group, I've been asking questions like, hey, what's a good appliances, and trying to pull that community into our story. And, maybe some of them will be able to come and stay with us at some point in time and give a donation, that kind of thing. So, but I keep telling them, thank you for being in our story, because they're giving me such great ideas on what's a good kitchen cabinets, and, all different kitchen ideas and bedroom hacks and bathroom and all those stuff. So all those things, but so they know.
This just came to me too, and I want you to pray about it. El Bethel can be supported by the people who go and stay there weekly, however you want to do that, however you guys are going to do that. But it could also be supported by people from Celeste Glow going there to have many retreats with you.
True. And this is so true, Drew, because it's crazy how I know the designers of the house, and they're a family, so I just love it. They're a Rhode Island family. And we told them our concept. We told them. And I had a picture of what the house would look like. I don't really think it's it would have been structurally sound, or would have fit on the property, as they told me, because, I have Newport Mansion dimensions in my head. But they came up with this design that had so many possibilities. This great room that could house seminars and could house many different things, like you just said, that I didn't even conceive of. I'm like, there's so many support group type things. We can have so many things there that, as I looked at the sketch, I'm like, oh my gosh, God placed in them these ideas to design the house, which I don't even know are possible.
God placed his ideas in them.
Yes, exactly. And it's kind of like when we moved to this house, because we lived on the other side of town. And when Stu couldn't get around, it was a raised ranch, and it was like a death trap for him. Stairs and the hallway. He couldn't move his walker. It was scary. So we went looking for a house, and when we found this house, and I searched everywhere with our realtor and was very discouraged, we found this house kind of out of nowhere. And when the inspector came, he looked around and he goes, "Guys, this house was built for you." And I'm like, yeah, in the 80s it was. The Lord knew that we needed to be here at this time, and he built it. The doors were wide, what they needed to be. Everything was perfect for us, including this room where my husband, his office here, and his changing room, and his everything.
Guest room.
Is what exactly. It's set up just for us. And I'm like, God built this house in the 80s, and so the things that we have no idea, when God pulls together and you look, like Corey Ten Boom says, on the other side of the tapestry, just a bunch of, threads and everything, and then you turn it over and find this beautiful image.
Beautiful. So Celeste, where could people find you at if they wanted to look you up?
So, as my friend said, I'm all over Facebook, so they can search for Celestial Glow Elite as my product group. We also have a page, Serving Through the Storm is a page, and I don't post as much there, but I try to keep that current. I will be more so. I'm on Instagram. I mostly use my account Celestial Glow, and it's connected to Facebook. I'm still not a big Instagram user, and I'm still learning, but everything is connected, so it sort of gets there, and I keep looking. So,
Awesome sauce.
That's that. But
you guys will hear more from Celeste. She's amazing, right? Now, there's not a lot of people I can listen to talk to a lot. Celeste is one of them. I just actually get quiet and just listen. So,
you flatter me. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We will be in touch, and guys, we'll make sure we send you guys some mini clips and some ways that you can go and donate and get into some of her Facebook groups and get some products and all that stuff. So, Celeste, we'll see you. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, Drew. You take care.
Right.
Thanks for having me here.
No problem.